Thanks for staying tuned. And Nigeria is one of the largest producers of raw cashew nuts in shells worldwide, with a yearly export volume of at least $167 million and untapped yearly potentials of over $115.8 million. Now, recent reports indicate that international buyers of cashew nuts may have shunned the Nigerian market following sharp practices by the middlemen and untamed traffic gridlock at the Apapa ports. The Cashew Farmers Association and Processors of Nigeria says that as a result, Nigeria is unable to meet its demand, especially for top buyers in Europe, Canada, and America. Well, let's look at this commodity with Desola Sumoni, one of the research analysts joining us with Financial Derivatives Company, joining us all the way from the UK. Hello, Demola. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
Well, cashew nut is one of Nigeria's largest agricultural exports. How would you say the gridlock in Apapa and the border closure have affected the exports of cashew nuts and, of course, government revenue?
Thank you for that question, Chimizi. Let me start by saying that one of the fundamental principles of economics is that people respond to incentives. Whether these incentives are positive incentives or perverse incentives, people always respond. Now, coming down to our issue here, the Apapa gridlock has had is like a significant bottleneck to maritime trade in Nigeria, particularly for perishable goods such as cashew nuts. Last year, about 50,000 metric tons of cashew was lost in the Apapa gridlock, which, like you said, cost the Nigerian exporters to default on some of their contracts abroad, and as a result, the international buyers did not renew their contracts. More recently, there are reports in the news that currently now about 67,000 tons are still stranded in the Apapa gridlock, and Vietnam, which is the largest cashew nut processor in the world, supposedly rejected about 37,000 tons of Nigerian cashew for many reasons, but one of them was because it took forever for the cashew nuts to get to that destination. So we can see already this gridlock is having a negative impact on trade, on exports of cashew. Now, for the border closure, before the implementation of the border closure, there was a lot of smuggling of cashew nuts to neighboring countries, Ghana, Gabon, Ivory Coast, and things like that. And one of the arguments for the border closure is that it would incentivize people to go through the official means, but you see there's already a bottleneck in the official means of exporting cashew nuts. Also, if you look at the trade figures, Q2 2019 trade figures, cashew exports from Nigeria was valued at, I think, $25 billion naira, sorry, and at Q3 it had declined to about 5 billion naira. So there are many reasons that could be responsible for that, but it simply shows that increase in exports that we're expected to see from border closure, we have not seen it yet. This may show up in Q4 figures, but we have not seen it yet. So overall, I think that the border closure and the gridlock is having significant negative effect on trade, on cashew nut exports. And the border closure, well, the government said that the customs is getting more revenue from border closure. But I think what has happened is that the border closure has made smuggling of cashew nuts more risky and more lucrative.
Okay, Nigeria is the 6th largest producer of cashew nuts in Africa. What lessons do you think Nigeria can learn from other top cashew nut exporters in Africa?
Yeah, thank you again for that question. Indeed, there are a number of large cashew nut exporting countries in Africa, with Ivory Coast being one of them. We also have Mozambique, Tanzania, and Kenya, but I'll focus on Ivory Coast because they are the largest. So some of the things that Ivory Coast did that Nigeria can do include the following. One, Ivory Coast embarked on like a planting program. In the last decade, they significantly increased their production by giving improved seedlings to farmers over a number of years, which increased their output. Another thing is they rapidly embarked on developing the value chain, particularly focusing on processing, because Nigeria exports raw cashew nuts. Some other African countries also export raw cashew nuts, but raw cashew nuts, like a ton of raw cashew nuts, I think earns about $1,200 in the international markets, whereas a ton of processed cashew nuts earns about $10,000 in the international market. So Ivory Coast focused on processing. Currently, Ivory Coast has about 29 processing plants, whereas Nigeria has only about 7. Another thing is the government tried to incentivize private sector investment. They tried to give tax holidays and stuff. They even tried to give they had export subsidies. So for companies that exported processed cashew nuts, the government gave them some subsidy, and for companies that export raw cashew nuts, there was some export taxes on those ones. So there was also subsidy on inputs, on farm inputs. We also have this what's it called, marketing board. So the government of Ivory Coast set up this cotton and cocoa marketing board in 2013 to try to regulate farm gate prices. And since 2013, the farm gate prices has actually been increasing. To my knowledge, I don't think there's any cashew marketing board in Nigeria. So those are some of the things that Nigeria can implement. And finally, the gridlock, the key issues, the gridlock, the traffic gridlock at the Apapa ports. So if you look at the ease of doing business index, or even the import and trade indices in this ease of doing index of Nigeria's neighboring countries, Ivory Coast, you see that they all perform better than Nigeria. So I think that's alone, that is a major bottleneck that I think the government should look into decongesting as soon as possible.
Thank you, Desola. Let's just hope that is taken. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.